आज इंटरनेट सिर्फ आधे अधूरे सच और पूरे झूठ में डूबा हुआ है। किसी के पास गहराई से सोचने का या शांति से सुनने का वक्त ही नहीं है। हम एक ऐसा शांत कोना बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। Nope, not your ordinary podcast for entertainment.
Nope.
पॉपुलर हिस्ट्री और एक्चुअल हिस्ट्री वो अलग क्यों है?
So popular history and real history. That's a, the way you, even the way that you say it or frame it. Real history का मतलब हुआ real history और popular history का मतलब हुआ जैसे popular cinema का मतलब हुआ या popular art का मतलब हुआ. It means कि if it's popular, it is not serious, non-serious. It is not worth taking as seriously as real history. और ये बात मतलब जो रियल हिस्टोरियंस हैं मॉडर्न सब नहीं बट कुछ मॉडर्न एकेडमिक हिस्टोरियंस का भी यही मानना है कि हिस्ट्री शुड बी रिटन ओनली बाय हिस्टोरियंस. हिस्ट्री शुड बी रिटन बाय एक्सपर्ट्स, पीपल हु नो व्हाट दे आर डूइंग. राइट, इफ यू पुट इट इन द हैंड्स ऑफ नॉन एक्सपर्ट्स फिर यू डोंट नो व्हाट विल हैपन. आई डोंट अग्री विद दिस, क्योंकि अगर आप देखें कि ये जो आइडिया ऑफ अ प्रोफेशनल एक्सपर्ट एकेडमिक हिस्टोरियन इज अ फेयरली रिसेंट आइडिया. लेट्स से यू टॉक अबाउट समबडी लाइक अबुल फजल एक अकबर के मतलब बहुत अच्छे दोस्त और कोर्टियर और हिस्टोरियन हैं जिन्होंने मतलब एक मोन्यूमेंटल वर्क लिखी है अकबरनामा यानी अकबरी. अब उसको आप हिस्ट्री कहेंगे या नहीं कहेंगे, वो अबुल फजल को हिस्टोरियन कहेंगे या नहीं कहेंगे. आई वुड से कि यू नो इट you can't differentiate, you can't make such clear lines between what is an established professional historian and a popular historian. And since I'm sitting with you, this analogy occurred to me that perhaps the relationship between a real historian and a popular historian can also be the real relationship between, say, a real politician and a real comedian. In the sense that a good politician works for the public good, and a good comedian expresses what is the public interest, what is in the public good, and the two can work together. Similarly, academic history writing and popular historical discourse can work together. It's not necessary कि दोनों बिल्कुल अलग हों, सेपरेट हों और एक दूसरे के खिलाफ हों. इसका एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको देती हूँ. जो एक पॉपुलर राइटर हैं जो थी आई थिंक जोसेफिन टे. पॉपुलर राइटर मतलब ये भी नहीं कि लिटरेरी राइटर थी, पॉपुलर डिटेक्टिव नॉवेल्स लिखती थी. और उनकी एक नॉवेल है द डॉटर ऑफ टाइम, और उसमें उनका जोसेफिन टे का एक रिकरिंग डिटेक्टिव है, अब नाम मैं भूल रही हूँ उसका. जैसे हरक्यूल पारो या फेलूदा, वैसे ही उनके जोसेफिन टे के काफ़ी नॉवेल्स में ये आता है. तो इसमें हुआ क्या है कि ही इज़ इंजर्ड, हॉस्पिटलाइज्ड है, हॉस्पिटल में लेटा हुआ है, टांग टूट गई है. तो वो बोर हो रहा है तो उसको कोई आके आई थिंक कोई रिचर्ड III पे कोई किताब देता है और वो पढ़ने लग जाता है. अब रिचर्ड III इंग्लिश ब्रिटिश हिस्ट्री में का एक बहुत बड़ा विलन है. जैसे आप अन्य मतलब ऑलमोस्ट लाइक औरंगजेब is to our historical discourse. Richard III is the bad guy in English history. There's a charge against him that he had his 2 nephews murdered in order to get the throne and वगैरह वगैरह. अब जोसेफिन टे का डिटेक्टिव ये इन्वेस्टिगेट करने लगता है क्योंकि इतना बोर हो रहा है और कुछ क्राइम है नहीं, जा भी नहीं सकता कहीं बाहर, और इन्वेस्टिगेट करके वो इस कंक्लूजन पे आता है कि एक्चुअली रिचर्ड III इतना बुरा नहीं था और ये मर्डर रिचर्ड III ने नहीं कमिट किया, मतलब ये अपने नेफ्यूज को नहीं मरवाया. So this was, of course, Josephine Tay was a very popular writer, and this was also a popular book. It did very well, but it's not just that. What happened was, in fact, historians, professional historians of the time in England started re-examining the evidence themselves, and thereafter there has been some shift in the understanding of Richard III in the realm of real हिस्ट्री. तो पॉपुलर हिस्ट्री और रियल हिस्ट्री का ऐसे मतलब बहुत सिम्बायोटिक और प्रोडक्टिव रिलेशनशिप भी हो सकता है. और
तो जैसे रिचर्ड द थर्ड का आप बता रहे थे, तो लोगों को लगा वो खराब आदमी है, किसी ने बोला उसने अपने दोनों नेफ्यू का कत्ल किया है, फिर किसी ने बोला कि शायद नहीं किया। तो चेंज क्या था?
तो चेंज ये था कि जोसेफिन टे ने अपनी किताब में, जो फिक्शनल किताब है, डिटेक्टिव नॉवल है,
हाँ।
उसमें जोसेफिन टे का जो हीरो है डिटेक्टिव, वो इस एलिगेशन को इन्वेस्टिगेट करने लगता है कि सच में क्या रिचर्ड III ने अपने नेफ्यूज को असैसिनेट किया या नहीं किया। तो ये बिल्कुल मतलब थियोरेटिकल एक्सरसाइज है, पर वो लिखा हुआ है वैसे मतलब एक थ्रिलर की तरह लिखा हुआ है, क्योंकि वो जोसेफिन टे थ्रिलर और डिटेक्टिव राइटर हैं, डिटेक्टिव स्टोरीज लिखती हैं अगाथा क्रिस्टी की तरह है, और जो बहुत जो उस तरह की वो पॉपुलर डिटेक्टिव राइटर हैं, रूथ लेंडर, अगाथा क्रिस्टी, डोरोथी एल्सियर, इंग्लिश डिटेक्टिव स्टोरी राइटर हैं। और उनकी स्टोरी मतलब बहुत पॉपुलर राइटर थी, वैसे नहीं कि वो लिटरेरी फिक्शन लिख रही थी या कोई एकेडमिक ट्रीटाइज लिख रही थी, पॉपुलर डिटेक्टिव स्टोरी लिख रही थी, जिनमें उनका डिटेक्टिव ये एक नया सोल्यूशन लाता है इस क्राइम का, डिड रिचर्ड द थर्ड कमिट द क्राइम और नॉट, एंड ही सेज नो इन द एंड। और ये जो नॉवल थी, इसको मतलब हिस्टोरियंस ने भी पढ़ा, और फिर हिस्टोरियंस ने अपना मतलब कुछ हिस्टोरियंस ने फिर हिस्टोरिकली री इन्वेस्टिगेट किया ये पूरा ये किस्सा, रिचर्ड द थर्ड का किस्सा, कि सच में व्हाट आई मीन डिड मे बी ही डिड नॉट, एंड देयर वाज अ होल री एग्जामिनेशन of Richard III's character and actions, but maybe he did not actually order the murder of the two nephews. तो मैं ये एग्जांपल इसलिए दे रही हूँ कि in an ideal world, his popular writing on history and academic writing on history can converge and help each other. मतलब one can make the other better. Both can be, both can be, the mingling can be productive. अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली आजकल के हिंदुस्तान में दिस मिंगलिंग इज नॉट प्रोडक्टिव at all in most cases, because our relationship with both academic and popular history is very dysfunctional. और इसका मुझे मतलब एक मैं किस्सा काफ़ी सुनाती हूँ, तो आपको भी सुनाती हूँ. I think it captures the fundamental problem of what is going on in our thinking about history. तो ये कुछ 2-3 साल पुरानी बात है. मैं नोएडा में थी. नोएडा में मैंने एक कैब बुक करी. तो वो आई ओला की इनफैक्ट, और जैसे वो कैब मतलब गाड़ी आ रही थी मेरे पास, देयर वाज अनदर कार कमिंग फ्रॉम द अदर साइड एंड दे ऑलमोस्ट हैड अ एक्सीडेंट. तो जब मैं बैठी फिर गाड़ी में, तो द ड्राइवर एंड आई इमीडिएटली एक थोड़ी बॉन्डिंग हुई हमें, कि हमने दोनों ने ये वी बोथ अग्रीड कि जो एक्सीडेंट होने वाला था वो दूसरे आदमी की गलती थी, मतलब ही वाज द वन हु वाज ड्राइविंग बैडली, नॉट माय ड्राइवर. और फिर तो ये बात हुई, उसके बाद और बातें शुरू हो गई. अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो हमारा जो बॉन्ड बना था वो इसके बाद थोड़ा अनरावल कर दिया, क्योंकि वी हैड अग्रीड अबाउट दैट अदर ड्राइवर्स ड्राइविंग स्किल्स, बट वी डिसएग्रीड ऑन एवरी अदर सब्जेक्ट दैट केम अप ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ आवर कॉन्वर्सेशन. मतलब जो भी वो कहता था पॉलिटिक्स पे, इकोनॉमिक्स पे, और या जो भी मैं कहती थी, या तो मैं उसकी बात नहीं मानती थी या वो मेरी बात नहीं मानता था. फिर इवेंचुअली बात आई हिस्ट्री पे. जैसे अब सब हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन इवेंचुअली कहीं ना कहीं घूम घूम के हिस्ट्री, हमारे पास्ट पे आ जाती हैं. तो और ये बात हुई उस टाइम, ये पृथ्वीराज चौहान पे मूवी एक आई थी, तो वो रिसेंटली रिलीज हुई थी. और तो पृथ्वीराज चौहान की बात शुरू हुई, और समथिंग ही सेड कि पृथ्वीराज चौहान हैड किल्ड मोहम्मद गौरी, एंड आई सेड इनका नाम था मिश्रा जी. तो मैंने कहा मिश्रा जी, मतलब दिस इज नो लॉन्गर क्वेश्चन ऑफ ओपिनियन, मतलब इसमें ये इट्स नॉट अ क्वेश्चन कि आपकी राय है मेरी राय अलग है, वी कैन समहाउ अग्री, बट दिस इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ फैक्ट. फैक्चुअली दिस डिड नॉट हैपन. अब बाय दिस टाइम कुछ 45 मिनट वी हैड बीन इन दिस लॉन्ग कॉन्वर्सेशन. ट्रैफिक जैम में फंस गए थे, और अलग तरह के भी हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन भी जैम में फंस गई थी. तो मिश्रा जी ऐसे मतलब ही टर्न अराउंड, ही लुक्ड एट मी, ही सेड मैडम एक बात बोलूँ, आप बुरा मत मानिएगा. तो मैंने कहा नहीं ज़रूर बोलिए मिश्रा जी. तो बोले मैडम आपको कुछ भी नॉलेज नहीं है. तो फिर तो आई laughed and he laughed, because I had been thinking the same thing about him, right? That I was thinking what is this, what does he say? And I realized at that particular moment कि जो हमारा मतलब there is a chasm, मतलब this huge yawning gap between different kinds of knowledge, right? And because अब मैं क्या बोलती, मतलब मैं अगर कहूँ कि नहीं मेरी सोर्सेज हैं, मेरी सोर्सेज क्या हैं, बुक्स हैं, एकेडमिक रियल हिस्ट्री है, जो मैंने हिस्ट्री कभी पढ़ी थी, मेरे टीचर्स हैं, वेज राइटर्स हैं, ठीक है, मिश्रा जी के पास भी अपने सोर्सेज हैं, मिश्रा जी के पास हैं मतलब यूट्यूब पे जहाँ पे जिसको भी वो फॉलो करते हैं, व्हाट्सएप फॉरवर्ड्स हैं, मूवीज़ हैं, बॉलीवुड है, उनके लिए वो सोर्सेज बिल्कुल लेजिटिमेट हैं जैसे मेरे लिए ये सोर्सेज लेजिटिमेट हैं. तो हाउ आर वी supposed to even have a conversation? And alongside, you know, what is happening is that it would be one thing, chalo, if, you know, all popular history was relying on so-called popular sources and academic history was relying on so-called academic sources, and the two agreed to go in completely opposite directions. This has also happened in the past. But the bardic versions हैं history की, वो पॉपुलर हिस्ट्री हैं, कभी कभी वो कुछ और ही कहते हैं, जो मतलब जो हुआ था फैक्ट्स से अलग ही कुछ बोलते हैं. बट द प्रॉब्लम इज़ मोर देन दैट, मतलब इट्स कंपाउंडेड टुडे बिकॉज ये जो often, not always, but often this so-called popular history is also it's an attacking history, you know. तो जो बात मतलब पृथ्वीराज चौहान की बात अगर होगी तो इसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में होगी ऑफ हिंदू किंग रेजिस्टिंग मुस्लिम इन्वेडर, है ना. और जो भी मतलब पॉपुलर हिस्ट्री, जो भी whatever popular history rises up is of so-called Hindu heroes versus so-called Muslim villains, right? That is the extent of this popular history. What happens in that case, and then the other, if you call it the other side, if you have an attacking form of popular history, then you also develop a defensive form of popular history. ठीक है, तो जो अटैक हो रहे हैं आजकल, कौन अटैक हो रहे हैं ज़्यादातर, मतलब लेफ्ट लिबरल्स अटैक हो रहे हैं और मुस्लिम्स अटैक हो रहे हैं. तो लेफ्ट लिबरल्स आर फोर्स्ड इनटू you know, defending for some reason the actions of Nehru or the Congress or, you know, whoever. Whereas, you know, there's no reason why anyone should have to defend anybody in the historical discourse, because there's no such thing as pure good or pure bad. Muslims, there's one story that my sort of best example of this kind of defensive history is ये कोई रिसेंटली कुछ मेरे दोस्त हैं, आगरा गए थे, आगरा फोर्ट. वहाँ उनका गाइड था, उनको दिखा रहा था. आगरा फोर्ट में, एज यू नो, इज़ फेमसली वेयर औरंगजेब हैड इम्प्रिजन्ड शाहजहाँ, राइट. तो आफ्टर रिबेलिंग अगेंस्ट हिम एंड ही डिफीटेड हिज ब्रदर्स, किल्ड ऑल हिज ब्रदर्स, इम्प्रिजन्ड हिज फादर इन आगरा फोर्ट. तो ये जो गाइड था, एंड ही was for feeling compelled to defend औरंगजेब. तो औरंगजेब की डिफेंस उसकी ये थी कि Shahjahan never imprisoned his father. Sorry, Aurangzeb never imprisoned his father Shahjahan. Shahjahan had a lung problem. तो lung problem था, तो फिर उसको वहाँ ऊपर बिठा दिया फोर्ट पे. Nice river breeze was blowing from the Yamuna, so this was good for him. So this is, you know, this problem has become not one of popular history versus academic history or real history. It has become one of attacking aggressive history and defensive history, and history in which somehow everyone has to take some side because it has to prove some point about the immediate present. And again, this is not necessarily a new thing. It's just like many things in our world today. It's a exaggeration, and a sometimes grotesque exaggeration of what has often existed. जैसे औरंगजेब हमारा सबसे बड़ा विलन है इंडियन हिस्ट्री में. अगर आप देखें तो इंडियन हिस्ट्री जनरली फिल्ड विद पीपल जो कि मतलब हड़प्पा से लेके people who are working towards building the Indian national state. उसमें बीच में एक औरंगजेब है who everyone agrees is very bad. And by everyone I mean it's not just right now that this has happened. It has happened since at least the writing of British colonial history. और British colonial history को औरंगजेब के बारे में या मुगलों के बारे में जनरली ये एक मतलब काफ़ी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड ख्याल थे, क्योंकि एक तो जब वो आए थे शुरू में ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सब जब आए थे तो बिल्कुल मतलब insignificant traders थे कहीं वहाँ से दूर, मतलब गरीब with nothing much to sell, with very little money to buy. Mughal emperors were this huge, hugely powerful rulers of this very rich land. फिर धीरे धीरे of course we all know what happened. And so when they start writing history, their immediate predecessors and most legitimate immediate predecessors, there are others, but most legitimate immediate predecessors are the Mughals. तभी जब 1857 की uprising होती है तो it is Bahadur Shah Zafar, this old, I think he's in his 80s man who is made the head of the 1857 revolution because the Mughals remain the most legitimate power at that point. So there is a lot of interest amongst British colonial historians to discredit the Mughals. तो मतलब कि वो बहुत dissolute, womanizing, bigoted. अब औरंगजेब is bigoted, conservative, cruel, and therefore in contrast there is this British rule, and British rule is just and better for the people of India. यही आइडिया फिर आपको नेशनलिस्ट, जो हमारे अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस हैं, इसको भी कैरी फॉरवर्ड करते हैं काफ़ी हद तक. तो वी ऑल नो दैट वट एवर हिस्ट्री दैट वी हैव रेड, आई एम श्योर दैट यू हैव रेड, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट स्कूल हिस्ट्री. School history is you have Akbar the Great and you have Aurangzeb the Bad, right? And Akbar the Great.
अकबर द ग्रेट बचेगा नहीं, पर
नहीं अब नहीं, तो वही उसी पे तो मैं आ रही हूँ. तो अब क्यों नहीं बचेगा? क्योंकि अब क्या हुआ, वो तो हमारी एक नेशनलिस्ट हिस्ट्री थी. इट वाज अ यूनिफाइंग नेशनलिस्ट हिस्ट्री. इट आल्सो हैड इट्स ओन very clear ideas, and the idea was to unify all people. So Akbar the Great was a unifying nationalist king. I mean, मैंने एक nationalist history पढ़ी है, एक कोई श्रीवास्तव है nationalist historian में जो लिखते हैं कि he Akbar founded the National School of Music, National School of Architecture, National School of this, National School of that. So the idea of Akbar as a predecessor of the Indian national state is very clear. The idea of the bad Muslim, possibly, and as Aurangzeb as the figurehead of that, is that Aurangzeb is bigoted communal, which is the opposite of what the Indian state wants to be at that point. So Indians, the new Indian state of 1947 imagines itself as a secular state, and in very much in opposition to Pakistan. So Pakistan is the bad Muslim state, and the Indian Muslim is the good Muslim, Akbar. Then now you cut to now, where there is no such thing as a good Muslim anymore. Any population of Muslims in any city is now a mini Pakistan. So therefore, like you're saying, Akbar the Great नहीं बचा, क्योंकि अब अकबर और औरंगजेब में जो ये distinction थी, previous nationalist distinction थी, वो भी ख़त्म हो गई. अब अकबर और औरंगजेब एक ही हो गए हैं, सब के सब Mughal Muslim rulers who were bad for India, and who must now be vilified, raised, replaced.
बट जैसे हम डिस्कस करें कि तैमूर के बारे में कुछ सुना जाता है, एंड देन वी कम, बट ये सब चीज़ों में क्या सच्चाई है, मतलब, और कितना डिस्टॉर्शन है? लेट्स नॉट लुक एट इट फ्रॉम द लेंस ऑफ पॉपुलर और रियल हिस्ट्री, बट लेट्स लुक एट इट फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ fact and context.
Let me talk about Jahangir a little bit. ठीक है, क्योंकि जैसे one of the things that happens in history writing and history reading is कि sometimes a lot of pressure gets put certain historical characters. तो आपको if Akbar has to be the great always, and Aurangzeb has to be the bad always, otherwise our head will explode. So, and Akbar really, when I was researching Akbar, I mean, there is a definite greatness to him, but he's also a very complicated man. मतलब कोई जो empire building कोई saintly काम नहीं है. इसके लिए you have to do many things that are not at all very nice. And अकबर के बारे में जब पढ़ रही थी तो मतलब वो है ruthless, highly ambitious, very, very like an unsatiable hunger for power. And I mean, it reminds you of certain kind of people that we are surrounded with these days. So it was not, for me, it was very, I was kept thinking like, what is so great about this person? And then I came to an answer eventually, and that was that he did eventually become someone who did in fact rule with this idea of what he called Sulekul, which was it translates to either peace for all or absolute peace. This may he basically turns the idea of a true religion by which to rule into a true religion by which to rule well into good rule as
A religion.
a religion. Yes, exactly.
Welfareist.
Welfareist and just. What in the sense you treat he says I will treat everyone equally in my kingdom. But these guys, there is this pressure. You have to already see them in certain ways. So there's a pressure to continue seeing them in certain ways. Or if you challenge it, there's a resistance. But with Jahangir, it's a little bit, it's more interesting in some ways because Jahangir पे इतना pressure नहीं है हमारी तरफ से, because we hardly know anything about him. Except जो मुगल आज़म में जो सलीम और अनारकली की जो कहानी है, जो कि इनफैक्ट जिसका कोई हिस्टोरिकल बेसिस नहीं है. तो if you say let's we talk about fact and fiction and popular history and a real history, ये अनारकली का जो हिस्टोरिकल रिकॉर्ड में जिक्र होता है, that is only by one traveling Englishman in the early 1600s, जो कहीं I think लाहौर में एक tomb पाता है, उसको कहता है this is the tomb of Anarkali, pomegranate blossom, and it with whom he calls he says with whom she says he says that she was the mother of Danial being Salim's youngest brother, the Akbar's third son, and with whom Shah Salim had to do. Matlab, in that telling, it is Salim is having an affair with Akbar's wife, which is far less romantic and far more scandalous than the Mughal-e-Azam version of it, but also nothing that we necessarily have to believe, because this man who writes it is he's just walking in the bazaars of Lahore. He has no access to actually what is happening in the court. मतलब वो जो कहता है, वो जो कुछ कहीं उसने he may have understood, misunderstood, heard, not heard. There's nothing else. There's no other evidence to support this claim. But anyway, so Jahangir is the first son of Akbar. He is, in his very conception, a very interesting person, because he is the story कि अकबर की कोई औलाद नहीं थी, तो he was praying for a son, for an heir. तो किसी ने कहा कि आगरा में थे अकबर, तो कहा कि कोई शेख सलीम चिश्ती हैं चिश्ती में, तो वहाँ जाके सिकरी में तो वहाँ जाके उनसे कुछ बात कीजिए. तो अकबर goes to him, and Sheikh Salim says कि you will have not only one son, आपके तीन मतलब you'll have 3 boys. And lo and behold, he does have 3 boys. And the first son is born to Akbar's Rajput queen, जिनको जोधा भाई कहा जाता है, but actually her name is not Jodha Bhai. Again, this is some Englishman who misunderstood the whole thing and called her Jodha Bhai. Actually, her name is probably Harkha Bai. Maybe we don't actually 100% know her name, and that's another story that I maybe come to a little bit later. And she becomes pregnant. During her pregnancy, she moves into Sheikh Salim Chishti's home. So you have the Akbar's first son born to a Rajput mother in the home of a Sufi saint. So from the womb itself, he is a person who embodies a kind of a confluence of a mixture of influences. और इसमें उसको मैं influences खाली हिंदू और मुस्लिम नहीं कहूँगी, it was also Central Asian, क्योंकि अकबर has the Central Asian tradition, और दूसरा राजपूत. इस बीच में चाइल्डहुड में आफ्टर ही इज बॉर्न जहाँ सलीम हैज़ क्रिश्चियन ट्यूटर्स. क्रिश्चियन ट्यूटर्स वहाँ पे जेजुइट ट्यूटर्स आते हैं, अकबर जेजुइट मिशनरीज आते हैं अकबर के कोर्ट में. बेसिकली द आइडिया ऑफ कन्वर्टिंग द एम्परर. और एक इनको मतलब काफ़ी उम्मीद लेके आते हैं, क्योंकि उनको लगता है हो जाएगा, क्योंकि अकबर हैज़ स्टार्टेड डूइंग दिस इबादत खाना में ऑल दिस डिबेट्स इन विच इज़ गेटिंग ऑल द डिफरेंट स्कॉलर्स ऑफ डिफरेंट रिलीजन्स to battle with each other. तो इनको लगता है कि actually there's a chance that it might happen. But of course it does not happen. But when the first lot of missionaries comes, he makes them tutors to his sons. So from an early age, Salim is also very much exposed to Christianity, and he's very fond of his Jesuit tutors. And one reason why he's very fond of his Jesuit tutors is because it seems Akbar, and one of the reasons why Jahangir is so fond of his, and not just Jahangir, Salim, but all three boys, Salim, Murad and Daniel, all three of them are very fond of their Jesuit tutors, because it seems Akbar, who was himself, ironically, a very bad student. There is a record of this, that within a few months, मतलब अकबर के 4 ट्यूटर बदले गए थे. इतना हुआ कि मतलब हुमायूं ने एक खत भी लिखा अकबर को, स्कोल्डिंग हिम, सेइंग कि इफ यू डोंट पे अटेंशन टू योर स्टडीज व्हाट विल हैपन. पर अकबर का इंटरेस्ट था पिजन फ्लाइंग में, कैमल डॉग रेसिंग में, कैमल राइडिंग में, ये सब करने निकल जाता था. वो क्लासेस अटेंड नहीं करता था, और ट्यूटर एक के बाद एक तंग होकर छोड़ देते थे. पर विद हिज ओन सन्स इट सीम्स ही वाज वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट. मतलब उनको डांटता भी था इन कोर्ट, कभी कभी एक दो मतलब मार भी देता था. तो काफ़ी मतलब डरते थे अपने बाप से, सलीम, मुराद और दानियाल. और ये जो, और अकबर ने ये भी छूट दी हुई थी कि ट्यूटर्स को कि अगर कुछ करें ये लोग मतलब बदमाशी बदतमीज़ी, तो यू ऑल्सो डोंट हेजिटेट टू हिट दम. फिर इन्होंने जो ये जो फादर मॉन्सेराट हैं, जो एक जेजुइट जिन्होंने एक जर्नल लिखा अपना, तो when he and the other Jesuits reassured the princes कि we will not hit you, they were very relieved, as you can imagine. So he has this childhood fondness for the Jesuits. So so in that sense, and I'm telling you all this in the context of, if we are talking about, let us say, the fact stroke popular discourse of were Mughal emperors bigoted, were all Muslim rulers hardcore believers in Islam, was their only interest in converting people and destroying temples? Here you have the fourth Mughal emperor, Jahangir, who is the son of a Rajput queen, born in a Sufi's house, taught by a Jesuit missionary. Okay, and so in himself he encapsulates something that actually is really a very modern kind of not just acceptance of religion, but almost like a acceptance of doubt with it when it comes to religion. He is not brought up in any one sort of religious way. His own father Akbar is now, Akbar himself actually is brought up to be a believer. He himself says कि I used to be I used to believe, but then he becomes more increasingly heretical. And there is, but this idea of converting the Mughal emperor still somehow remains. So ये 3 आते हैं Jesuit missionaries, 3 missions आती हैं, 3 groups आते हैं, तो तीनों हार मान कर चले जाते हैं. But this idea remains. और Jahangir के time में there are some Jesuit missionaries also. There are also now when all the trading companies start coming. So East India Company के एक first ambassador of the East India Company is this man called Sir Thomas Roe. Sir Thomas Roe comes as an ambassador to the court of Jahangir, and he leaves behind a very detailed journal of all his experiences. और उस journal में there's a letter, एक खत है जो Thomas Roe लिखता है to the Bishop of Canterbury, talking about the potential possibility of converting or not converting Jahangir. Now Salim has become Jahangir.
Yeah.
And he says there's a line in that where he says that the king Jahangir is either the easiest person to convert or the most impossible, because he will listen to anything, but he will not believe, he will listen to everything, but he will not believe anything. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, which is a very sort of, I mean, you can understand exactly what he means, right? Because many of us also have grown up. It's a very sort of very modern sort of atheist, agnostic sensibility that exists in Jahangir very naturally from his birth. And then this was only to complicate things further, right? But this is the same Jahangir who, when he wants to become emperor, it's not easy at all for him. Akbar, even though Akbar had prayed so hard, I mean, he is born to the prayers of Akbar, and then he goes on to be the absolute bane of Akbar's old age. At the end, मतलब अकबर और जहांगीर के बीच में बिल्कुल ही मतलब ब्रोकन डिसफंक्शनल रिलेशनशिप है उनका। जहांगीर तो मतलब रिबेल करके इलाहाबाद चला जाता है, वहाँ पे अपने आप को, सलीम है तब तक, तो वहाँ अपने आप को जहांगीर का टाइटल देता है, अपने आप को शाह डिक्लेयर कर देता है, अपने लिए शाइनी ब्लैक मार्बल का थ्रोन बनवाता है, जो अभी भी एक्चुअली आगरा फोर्ट में शिफ्ट किया जाता है बाद में, तो वहाँ है अगर कोई देखना चाहे। बहुत ही राइट्स ऑल्सो इन हिज जर्नल, आई वॉज वेरी हैप्पी विद माई थ्रोन। Akbar was not at all happy with his son. What is he doing? He was, and there is evidence to suggest, not 100%, but it is possible कि Akbar had thought कि जहांगीर को सलीम को entirely skip करके सलीम के बेटे पे जाते हैं. So Salim's son is Khusro, and he wants Akbar thinks that maybe he will make Khusro the next emperor. This is not 100%, we don't know this for 100% fact, but we do know that two of Akbar's closest advisors and friends, and two of the most powerful men in the empire, one is Mirza Aziz Koka, who is Akbar's childhood, the milk brother, he's called. The milk brother was somebody whose own mother had nursed Akbar. So Aziz's mother had nursed Akbar. And Man Singh. Mirza Raja Man Singh, as his full title is, and both of them. Mirza Raja Man Singh is Khusro's mamu, because he is Khusro's mother's brother, and Aziz is Khusro's father-in-law. And both of them actually call a council of all the nobility when Akbar is on his deathbed to suggest कि Khusro को ही बना देते हैं, Salim is no good. And Salim at this point takes the help of the more conservative Sunni Muslims in his court, who are all feeling very unhappy with Akbar. But Akbar has been more and more sidelining conservatism in his court, because Akbar has become more and more heretical and more experimenting with all different faiths. So he does this. So he comes and he succeeds. Salim succeeds. He becomes Jahangir, partly because he gets the support of that faction. Even though he is also this person who, like I was saying, is also a complete, in the sense, not just an unbeliever. He believes also. He's open to everything. He believes nothing. He is in that sense, he's not a religious person in any sense. In his blood, he is not. And yet he is not. He can also be politically canny and use religious conservative support in order to gain the throne. So now, so the question that you asked started by asking what is real, what is fake, that there is no such. I mean, there are facts. There are, on this particular date, in this particular year, Salim was crowned the emperor of Hindustan. That is a fact. Even those kinds of facts sometimes can be challenged, because there's a date of birth. Akbar was born on this date, in this month, in that year, right? But in fact, there's one historian, there's a colonial historian called Vincent Smith, who says कि actually Akbar का एक और कुछ और birth date उन्होंने गलत, it was a wrong birth date that was publicly declared, because there was a fear that if they give the real birth date, then astrologers will be able to do some black magic on him. So even those kind of facts can be open to some challenge, but by and large, those facts you can say, okay, or on this date in this year, 1611, I think, Jahangir married Noor Jahan. What was the nature of their relationship? Why they got married? How they got married? That is a completely different, and that you can go into a great deal of detail and interpretation in that. And in fact, one of the most interesting things about Jahangir is his relationship with women. And again, this is something that popular discourse may you have this. There is this idea, even sometimes in some academic writing, that the Mughal kings are A, bigoted, B, dissolute. So dissolute, and that means Mughal kings have dozens of wives and concubines, and that is all that they're interested in. And secondly, of course, they are also oppressing women. So women have no agency. Whereas in fact, again, this is a very complicated terrain. So the Mughal women have a lot of agency, because this is nothing to do with Islam or Muslimness. This has a lot to do with the Central Asian nations, जहाँ पे मतलब nomadic तो नहीं है, but there's मतलब the women also ride horses, go on hunts, they even play polo. They not just all of that, they are also very much part of the politics of the court. तो जो बाबर की बहन है खानजादा बेगम, खानजादा बेगम को जब बाबर का असली मतलब ड्रीम जो था, ड्रीम कॉन्क्वेस्ट जो बाबर की थी, वो था समरकंद. तो समरकंद में बहुत बार कोशिश की बाबर ने कब्जा करने की, 2-3 बार he succeeded, then he was again and again thrown out, and the last time that he was thrown out was by Shaybani Khan, Uzbek ruler था. और part of the deal was that Babur had to give his sister Khanzada Begum to Shaybani Khan. When Shaybani Khan died, Khanzada came back. That time Babur was in Kabul. And now if you think of it in terms that maybe we are familiar with in India, there will be a great deal of shame associated with Khanzada Begum, but ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. She is greeted with a lot of love, respect. She becomes one of the most important, one of the most powerful women in the court. Khanzada Begum जब बाबर ख़त्म हो जाता है, फिर बाबर के 4 बेटे हैं, हुमायूं और कामरान और अस्करी और हिंडाल, और दिस इज़ फेमसली नोन कि उनकी मतलब बहुत झगड़े होते हैं उनके टू अबाउट हु विल कंट्रोल व्हाट. खानज़ादा बेगम उनके बीच में एम्बेसडर है, उनको मतलब उनको शी इज़ ट्राइंग टू मेक देम गेट अलोंग. शी इज़ नेगोशिएटिंग बिटवीन देम. बाद में जब अकबर और सलीम के बीच में ये जो ब्रेक होता है, सलीम इलाहाबाद चला जाता है, अकबर देयर इज ऑलमोस्ट पॉइंट वेयर अकबर इज गोइंग टू थ्रेटन टू go to war against him, vice versa. तो सलीम की ग्रैंडमदर, सलीम की नानी हमीदा बानो, Akbar's mother, and his aunts are also part of the negotiation between the father and son. Salim's mother, जिनका नाम जोधाबाई नहीं है, हरकाबाई है शायद, टाइटल है मरियम उज़ ज़मानी, Mary of the Ages. She is one of extremely powerful shipping magnate of her time. She runs a trading business. One of the largest trading ships in the waters of the Arabian Sea is run by her. At the same time, the reason that we don't know her name is that in the Akbarnama, most of the highest ranking women are not named. So she is referred only to as Maryam uz-Zamani. Hamida Banu, who is Akbar's mother, is referred to as Maryam Makhni. Other high-ranking women many of them are referred to by title, not by name. And one theory for why this happens is, this is proposed by Harbans Mukhya, interesting essay. Harbans Mukhya की theory है कि there is just the sense of shame and honor being invested in women does not exist in the Central Asian mind. But it definitely exists in the Rajput mind. And Akbar is increasingly close to his Rajput in-laws, commanders, friends, everybody. So it is during Akbar's time that actually the harem, which is actually just a noun for the women of the court, it is not a fixed place, becomes a fixed place. And in the Akbarnama itself, the women, the high-ranking women, are put under in a kind of parda, so they cannot be named on the pages because of this idea of honor and shame. So what I'm trying to say in this long manner is that beyond a point, I mean, there are of course reasonable speculational, reasonable interpretation of history, but these interpretation can change, and this happens very dramatically. And this is my last bit on this thing. This happens very dramatically in the case of Jahangir himself. तो जहांगीर का जो impression generally है, अगर आप मुगल आजम को अगर aside कर दें तो generally the impression हो Jahangir that most people have, I certainly had it when I was writing, is कि ये मतलब he drank a lot and he was kind of weak. He was maybe dominated. Noor Jahan was more powerful than him. This is a broad sense that you have. ये colonial historian hai famously he said about Jahangir ke he would have been better suited as the director of a natural history museum than as the emperor of the Mughal Empire, because he was very interested in animals, birds, nature, all of that. This and I had exactly this sense of him also when I was writing. I enjoyed him very much. I thought he's written Jahangirnama is a beautiful book that anyone should read. Very entertaining also. But generally, I had the sense that he was not the strongest emperor, and that he was a little bit of a addict of many things. And I was talking about this to अनुभूति मौर्य, जो शायद यहाँ भी आई हैं, और मेरी दोस्त हैं और हिस्टोरियन भी हैं मोर इम्पोर्टेंटली इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट. तो मैंने अपना एक ड्राफ्ट भेजा था किताब का टू अनुभूति, एंड वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट इट, एंड शी वाज वेरी काइंड एंड हेल्पफुल एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. But at some point I made some joke about Jahangir and his drinking, right? And then Anubhuti said, why don't you think about it not only as drunkenness, but also as affability? So, meaning ki Jahangir drinks, sure, every day. In fact, he records, he's also a little OCD. So he records how when he, at one point at the height of his addiction, he used to drink 14 goblets of double distilled liquor in a day. So much so that by the end of the day, he could not even hold the goblets. Somebody else would have to make him drink it. फिर डॉक्टर ने कहा कि ऐसा चलता रहेगा तो 6 महीने में आप खत्म हो जाएंगे. तो he managed to bring it down, sometimes by diluting his double distilled liquor with wine. And he brought it down to, I think, 7 cups, and also only in the evening. Right? But in the evening when he is drinking, he is also drinking with his nobility. All the nobility, not all, but a selected nobility comes. If there's some visitor, once this Thomas Roe is also invited, or some ambassador from somewhere, Iran ka ya kahin ka, koi visiting kahin from another part of Hindustan, somebody has come. So it is तो अनुभूति ने मुझसे कहा कि think of it as he is sitting in the evening with these people having a drink, talking about all kinds of different matters. Some matters related to administration, other matters related to nature, hunting, whatever it is. So it is his affability. It is a way of bonding and with these people who building trust. क्योंकि अदरवाइज हाउ डू यू रन अ किंगडम. और फिर जहांगीर को अच्छे इन्होंने अनुभूति ने मुझको इंट्रोड्यूस किया टू द न्यू राइटिंग अबाउट जहांगीर. सम ऑफ इट इज बाय दिस फ्रेंच हिस्टोरियन कॉल्ड कोरिन लेफेव्र. और कोरिन लेफेव्र ने उनकी आर्ग्यूमेंट ये है कि ये जो जहांगीर का जो दिस आइडिया ऑफ जहांगीर दैट वी हैव comes from 2 sources. ये 2 sources हैं, टॉमस रो और शाहजहां. टॉमस रो यहाँ आता है ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के तौर से. उसका एक एजेंडा है कि कुछ ट्रेडिंग कंसेशंस, ट्रेडिंग टर्म्स, अच्छी फेवरेबल ट्रेडिंग टर्म्स मिले. वो नहीं मिलती हैं उसको. बहुत कोशिश करता है, नहीं मिलती हैं. एक जर्नल वो लिखता है, उसमें बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग जर्नल है. सब कुछ वो रिकॉर्ड करता है अपना his experiences, और उसमें ये भी but the साफ निकलता है that he became very close to Jahangir the emperor. He wants to say Jahangir was a good person, right? Because, and you can understand, now you're going back, this is a journalist that he is going to show his bosses, right?
Yeah.
So he wants to say I reached the emperor, I managed to make friends with him, right? He was a very nice guy, he treated me very nicely. Then why did I not get these trading concessions? I didn't get them because Jahangir is controlled by a faction. कहता खुद a faction. The faction consists of primarily his wife Noor Jahan and his son Khurram, the बाद में शाहजहां बनता है, और Noor Jahan's father and Noor Jahan's brother. So he is a good man but a weak man. बाद में शाहजहां, जो कि actually responsible for much of Thomas Roe's problems, because he's the one who's more negotiating with him. Shahjahan rebels against Jahangir. Initially, he is Jahangir's favorite. Then he becomes very much not his favorite, partly because there's a falling out between Shahjahan और नूरजहां के बीच में एक falling out होती है, क्योंकि नूरजहां को लगने लगता है शायद वही, मतलब जहांगीर के बाद why should her anyway her rule not continue. So she becomes too ambitious basically, or Shahjahan also rebels. Now, if you have rebelled against an emperor, then he becomes the emperor. Once you have become an emperor, you cannot be seen as supporting rebellions against emperors. तो शाहजहां के जो हिस्टोरियंस हैं उनकी राइटिंग में भी ये एक इंटरप्रिटेशन निकलती है, ये एक आइडिया निकलता है कि शाहजहां was the only reason that Shahjahan rebelled against his own father was that his father was being controlled by his wife, that it was in the larger interest of the empire. So Khurram Shahjahan was not being a bad son, he was being a good future emperor. He was being it was for the sake of the empire that he was doing it. And if you remove these interpretations, if you look at Jahangir without these lenses, then there's no reason necessarily to see him like that, because Jahangir लगभग 22 साल रहा बादशाह हिंदुस्तान का, and it was a pretty stable, pretty prosperous time for the empire and for the court. So this again is just to say, how, I mean, in this case, the evaluation of Jahangir has changed quite a bit, and very much in the recent past, in front of our eyes, and so that is how history is written, and यही जब प्रॉब्लम अब हमारे आजकल के डिस्कोर्स में, हमारे आजकल की बातचीत, हिस्ट्री पे जो हमारी बातचीत होती है, उसमें मेन प्रॉब्लम यही है कि we want certainties now. So we want 100% truths and 100% justifications. What we know the reason that Mishra ji and I and that Agra travel guide, all of us share a great interest in history for different reasons, right? But three of us could not sit down like this and have a conversation. And the reason we can't do it is because we don't share a common base, a common base of how and why is knowledge being produced, why are we writing about history and how are we writing about history. और एक टाइम पे ये था, हमारे recent past में ये था, how we were writing about it was कि आपके experts थे, वो research करके लिखते थे, and why we were writing about it was for nation building, to create idea of unity and diversity. That was, I mean, very simplistically put. It was broadly that, and it was not, you can have many arguments with it, but it was not relatively speaking, it was a unifying impulse. It was not, अब हमारा unifying impulse नहीं रहा, अब now we have a dividing impulse, we have a destroying impulse. So the new nationalist history is not unifying, it's excluding, right? And so therefore we do not share the same ideas for why history.
The same interests also.
We don't have the same future interests.
Yeah.
we have a great we are consuming history. मतलब कितना आजकल हिस्ट्री पे कितना कहाँ कहाँ बुक्स तो लिखी जा रही हैं, मूवीज बनाए जा रहे हैं, इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट है एक के बाद एक, यूट्यूब चैनल्स हैं, रील्स हैं, व्हाट्सएप फॉरवर्ड्स हैं, लोग हिस्ट्री को एक बाइट साइज में कितना कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं। पर हम व्हाट वी आर नॉट कंज्यूमिंग इज ये दिस आइडिया दैट of uncertainty, of doubt, of we are not we are not we don't want, in fact, and nobody wants us to also, to be skeptical, to be doubtful. Like that is primarily what history is. You don't, one of the first things that came to me when I was writing Jahangir was, you can't trust anybody. You have to look at everybody with some degree of skepticism, including yourself. And ये जो नई बात आजकल बोली जाती है, bias, historical bias, historians are biased. What historians didn't tell you, this is what historians have been hiding from you. ये ऐसे कहा जाता है as if कि there is such a thing as a objective unbiased historian. अब जो आपको बात बताई जा रही है वो बिल्कुल सच है, इसको आप blindly trust कीजिए क्योंकि ये तो बिल्कुल unbiased fact है. But that is it doesn't work like that, because there's no such thing as a human being without bias. अब तो मतलब artificial intelligence की भी बात होती है, तो now people talk about bias in AI because it is programmed by human beings. So how a human being without bias? And what it creates is, instead of skepticism and doubt, what we have is cynicism. तो सब मतलब ये सब जो लेफ्टिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस हैं या मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस हैं, ये सब बायस्ड हैं, ये सब तो सालों से आपको उन्होंने झूठ बताया, अब हम आए, हम आपको सही, ट्रू, प्रॉपरली नेशनलिस्ट हिस्ट्री सुनाएंगे. और ये cynicism, this is just my last thing, but Hannah Arendt का जो है Origins of Totalitarianism, उसमें Hannah Arendt में लिखा है कि the devoted public of a authoritarian leader, totalitarian leader, combines in itself perfectly great cynicism and great gullibility. तो आपको मतलब जो भी आपका डियर लीडर, चोजन मेसाया कहता है, आप मान जाते हैं कि यस बिल्कुल एब्सोल्यूट, दिस इज 100% ट्रू. जब पता चलता है कि इट वाज नॉट ट्रू, when the rug is pulled out from under your feet, जो कि हर बार होता है, मतलब अब ये तो we see it every 3 months, then you say कि then you are cynical and you say कि so what, okay fine, he lied or he didn't tell the whole truth, but so what, he lies, everybody lies, and he lies better than all the others, so I still think of him as the best. And the opposite of that is skepticism and doubt, and this is really my final thing, but there's this, there's that line, Descartes ki cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. So it's often printed on t-shirts. Yeah. I realized very recently that is not the full quote. There are 2 words missing. It is dubito ergo cogito ergo sum. So I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. And that doubt is what we are deeply lacking.
Thank you so much. I think we've got everything.
Thank you very much.